Namaste and welcome to the episode 2 of BioCharcha. This is your host Dr. Srija Roy from I'm an associate professor at ARCD. Today we are in this episode we are going to discuss intersections of science, education, innovation and impact. To do that I have the esteemed Professor Shanti Nair, who is a dean of ARCD, and he's also an associate provost of Amrita Vidyapeetham. Let me welcome sir. Hello sir.
Hello, Srija.
Yeah. So, sir, tell us a little bit why Faridabad and why Amrita wanted to establish, ARCD in Faridabad.
Well, let me begin by thanking you, Srija, for inviting me to this cool BioCharcha. It's a neat name. So, why did we establish ARCD? Is that what you're asking? Well, we started this major healthcare campus here in the Delhi NCR area with a tremendous need in North India for improved healthcare. There are many hospitals in Delhi area, main Delhi area, which are many of them private institutes and government hospitals. So there was nothing in between where you had a hospital that catered to those who cannot afford very expensive medical care and who may not quite be eligible for free medical care. And furthermore, there is a strong need to integrate medical care with research. And the NCR region was an ideal place, a little bit away from Delhi. We have a big campus, 130 acres. There's a future airport coming nearby. And we wanted to locate ourselves here in the hopes that we can do a very large service to middle of the road or even poor populations north of Delhi. Or is it south? Near Delhi in the NCR region. So we decided to have the campus, the healthcare campus here. So the campus is actually twofold. One is a major 2,600, 2,700 bedded hospital, a super specialty hospital with all the super specialties so that we can cater to a very comprehensive medical care. But also, and what is unique, is to have a very sturdy, strong, impactful research program in the form of a big research building. That's what we are calling ARCD, or Amrita Research Center, Delhi NCR, which is attached and coupled with the hospital so that we can then integrate research into patient care. So this was a vision that made us start this healthcare campus, in particular ARCD.
Thank you, sir. So, for the benefit of students, sir, can you tell us a little bit about the MSc program that we have in ARCD and what new courses we have launched?
Well, let me put it in a bit of a perspective. Yes, education is a very important part. We want to train the future healthcare researchers in our country. Um, but to do that, we also need to have a very strong research focus. One of the things that we need to do more in India is to integrate research into educational programs. That's why we started the Research Center Delhi, the focus being on research, so that we can have all the facilities and equipment that are needed to train students in state of the art technologies that will make an impact in healthcare. Having set that up, obviously we have to bring in the students, and our starting point has been MSc programs. We have started two. One started last year, which is on translational medicine, and the second one on advanced clinical and molecular diagnostics. So these programs are MSc PG programs that train students in all the state of the art that is currently developing and emerging in the area of healthcare. and translational medicine is one, and clinical diagnostics. So the focus on translation, on clinical and molecular diagnostics is very current, and it's something that I don't know. You may have more questions for me on that, but it came about for a reason. Recently, as you know, the pandemic really had a huge impact on people in many ways adversely. But for science, it was really, in a way, uh, a gift because we could focus on developing molecular techniques and technologies for therapy, for diagnostics, and it spurred a huge amount of research worldwide, and even in India. India, as you know, was one of the leading nations in vaccine manufacturing, supplied most of the world with vaccines. Um, Although the basic research may not have been developed in India, the capacity and the capability to do it was demonstrated evidently. And this really spurred the new age in medicine. And so this is why we felt that some of these courses should be product oriented. We should develop something that patients can use, whether it is a diagnostic kit, whether it's some new therapy or new drug or new intervention. And that's why we call it translational, which means that we are going to focus on translating from the lab to a product. And the product here in healthcare is something the patients use. So there is no other course in India that looks at the translational development, going from the lab to a product. That's a very exciting aspect of modern medicine. How do we actually understand the whole gamut of basic science, regulatory science, preclinical science, clinical sciences, to come up with a product that is reliable, that is safe, and effective?
Yeah.
So this is why we started these MSc programs, and it is one of the probably the only one in translational medicine that will give you exposure to such a wide range of exposures.
So beautifully summarized, sir, especially for the benefit of students who now understand basically what translational medicine means is, from bench to bedside. So, having said that, this appears to be a very innovative and, um, you know, um, it's a novel kind of courses, especially taught at MSc level in India. So what do you think, like what kind of who can join this, like what sort of prerequisite do they require? Can like a BSc in science can join, or do they have to have like specifically microbiology
That's a
or
good question. And there's always a question asked in an interdisciplinary course: who should join?
yeah.
If you're talking about a course in biology, then they have to have a degree in biology. For the course in mathematics, they have to have a degree in math. But what about a degree in translational medicine? Translational medicine is at the intersection of so many areas. It's microbiology, molecular biology, medicine, pharmacy, even engineering, because one has to develop tools and technologies that will help in, say, drug delivery, methodologies, and so on. So, what would be the key prerequisite? So, we are generally very flexible, but one of the things we ask for, because a common trend, common theme in all of these interdisciplinary programs is life sciences background. So, anyone with a life sciences background would fit in very well because they would have exposure to basic biology, some aspects of medicine, and so on, or maybe biotechnology, pharmacy, maybe lab technology, MLT, medical lab technology. These are all students who have been exposed to patient problems on the one hand, and the tools and technologies and techniques that are needed to treat and serve the patients. So those who have an interest in advancing, health care,
Mm.
health care as opposed to health science, will gain tremendously. And so those having some kind of a background in that are generally the ones who would naturally fit in. But if someone has a background in related areas, such as, for example, AI, which is now percolating into almost any field, it might be also a good fit because AI also is finding applications in translational medicine and clinical diagnostics. And so those with that background also can be someone who could fit in, learn some biology on the side as well, which would be exciting. Maybe they have not used AI in biology, but this would be an opportunity in a setting where there are patients and hospitals and experts in biology and scientists in genomics and proteomics. They would probably have a field day here with their AI expertise and learning how to use it in biology. AI in biology is becoming one of the important areas as well. It's part of our course, both translational medicine as well as clinical diagnostic. So it's a slightly complex answer to a simple question, but because it's such an interdisciplinary program, we welcome people from many disciplines, to put it
Yes.
short.
Yes. Yes.
And so those who join, only one thing I would say is that they should be really excited about healthcare, and how we can contribute to it. They should be excited about developing new product. They should be willing to work hard, get into the lab, wet their feet in the lab, do research. And this is in no way uh, a theoretical, bookish, taking an exam kind of a program where you get a piece of paper at the end after you have memorized enough. So this is where you are put on the field and you have to discover things and try to contribute something.
Thank you, sir. That's actually not too much. That's actually very intricate details that students might want to know, because as you said, that this is a very innovative, healthcare way of looking at healthcare, especially when it comes to or reaching it towards even as young as MSc. So, sir, what kind of projects do MSc students like? What sort of projects can they expect to do, like research projects? As you said, it's a very lab heavy courses. What kind of projects may be available?
Well, I mean, it depends on the student's interests. There are so many multiple areas. I mentioned about AI and its possible applications. There's genomics, which is another huge area. In fact, genomics leads to personalized medicine. Um, and in genomics, you know, back last century, Watson and Crick discovered the genome and showed about the DNA structure. Uh, what is happening today is just as important and major, if not even more important than that discovery. How do you now go in and do personalized medicine? How do you do single cell genomics? At the cellular level, what is happening in the body, and how is the genome interacting at the cellular level, and how is this transforming your way of your body's health, your way of thinking, um, and all of that is taking off in a big way with the aid of AI. So genomics is one, proteomics is another, because it's the hidden, less flashy, popular molecule. The gene is considered like the books written on genome.
Mm.
I don't know, the mad gene or something like that. Some books like that. But proteome, which is the proteins that are made from the genome,
The building blocks.
are the silent building blocks of the body, which makes a huge impact in terms of how our immune system works, in terms of how the body functions. It is actually they are actually the soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
if you put it in one way, who go out and do the job, and they are a clue to how the body is functioning. So projects relating this, looking at proteomic markers, and how they affect diseases, how they can be used to diagnose diseases, are really exciting. There are also some new emerging areas in the area of the microbiome. You may have heard about the microbiome. I know you have, but our readers or our listeners may not have fully captured it. But we have a microbiome in our gut, which are microbes which are both good and bad. And the composition of the microbiome can have a major impact on our health, on our, even for example, recently when doctors were doing uh, liver transplant, they realized that the microbiome composition can make a big impact on the rejection or not of the liver after transplantation. Mental health, um, and many other neurological diseases, physical health, cardiovascular health, retinal health. I mean, what have you is seems to be somehow in some mysterious way connected with it. So microbiology has evolved so much that we are now looking not just at drug resistant microbes and so on, which is, of course, a problem, but also looking at good microbes, probiotics, prebiotics, symbiotics, and so on, which seems to work in concert with the other bacteria, keep a certain balance. We don't know what is the nature of that balance. So studying the microbiome is a very interesting thing. There is also regenerative medicine. If you look at our body now, for example, 3D cultures and tissue engineering will allow you to grow tissues in the lab. You may, the listeners may have heard of these lab grown burgers, right? Where they're tissue engineered and grown in the lab, and they actually sort of like live tissue. And then you cook it and then you eat it. So, tissue engineering means how do you grow tissue? And you can extend that to say, how do you grow full organs? Can you grow a liver outside? Can you grow a cornea outside? We are nowhere near accomplishing some of these dreams, but can you grow a heart outside the body that actually beats? Long ago, I was involved in a project where we made a small heart tissue, and in the petri dish, it was pulsing like as if it was alive and beating. Just seeing that was so exciting that we were on a high for a week.
Feel like
know,
God.
that's the thing. Tissue engineering is how do you, our tissues day by day is basically getting older and needs repair after all. We are also like an engine that has a limited life, and we need to look at ways that we can engineer our tissues or revive tissues or repair tissues or even give new tissues. Bone has come very far along in that respect, making bone engineered products and so on. So using regenerative medicine, which has a lot to do with stem cells, looking at stem cell type based projects and how do you work with stem cells, how do you use stem cells, how do you apply them, how do you multiply stem cells. If you want to do bone marrow transplant, then you have to take hematopoietic stem cells and multiply them. So I mean, the list goes on. I could sit here for a couple of hours and talk about so many different things that you could do. The world of biology has evolved astronomically since the days of Louis Pasteur, who showed that there are actually cells in the body and that you can actually create a vaccine for rabies, for example, in the mid 1800s, right? Now we are at a stage where we have gone from there to actually, some people say, playing God, trying to actually grow live tissues and live organs and things like that. But so in biology, there is equivalent of AI. In AI, people are saying that we are creating robots that are like human beings and that we are playing God and they can think like human beings, they can think better than human beings, and so on. In the same way, could we have hearts that never ever suffer a heart attack? Could we have body parts that are superior and better through tissue engineering? So those are dreams. Everything starts with a dream, and one day it could be true. So so the way that the field has evolved in biology and medicine is just amazing. I want to tell you that this is the most exciting thing for me personally to be involved in ARCD, is the opportunity to ride the wave of the new biology medicine era, where the possibilities are so limitless. The old ways of just having a hospital, treating some patients and going home is disappeared. We are in an era where scientists and researchers and engineers are sitting with doctors and creating phantasmagoria. Okay, really.
Right.
And why can't we get excited? I am excited. I'm terribly excited about that possibility of interdisciplinary work like that at such a frontier where there could be tremendous new developments in the coming few decades. So this campus is set up to ride that wave and create teams of people who think like that, who work hard like that, who are motivated, excited to do new things, think big. We need such excitement, emotional excitement about our career. That's what makes us successful. I think just taking a career, get a degree, is not really in the long run going to be that satisfying. So, but if you have a vision or an excitement about something, and you want to explore is the word. You want to explore. ARC is a place. Okay, you can explore. There are scientists here who will explore with you. And we have the labs and the infrastructure, which is phenomenal. We have a 7-story building with 2 full floors of basic research labs. We have preclinical labs. Preclinical means generally animal studies, because unfortunately, some people may feel sad about it, but we have to use animals, small animals, to help us eventually translate it to humans. So we do have animal labs so that we can do preclinical tests. Another area where we are developing a lot of expertise is regulatory science. The people may wonder what that is. It means that if you're developing a healthcare product, who is going to make sure that it is safe? How do we ensure that it is safe? And that requires not regulators who come in and say, do this, do that, but regulatory science, which is basically those who are experts in understanding toxicology and the impact of new drugs and, new diagnostics on patients and how it could affect them, perhaps adversely. And so regulation is built around safety. So regulatory science is, you could say, is a modern version of toxicology. And that is also a very exciting area. There's a huge need for regulatory scientists in India. People who understand when something is innovated, what should be done by way of testing to ensure that it is safe and it'll work effectively. What should be done, not that what has been done, but what should be done. And so, a regulatory scientist will really need to explore the limits of new products and say, okay, this is the limit. You can only do it within these boundaries and so on. So those are some of the areas. And clearly, since we are next to a hospital, the other aspect which we have to keep in mind, which very few places have, even in India, is the ability to seamlessly interact with doctors and clinicians and patients so that we can stay grounded in reality. We are not sitting in an ivory tower and making up stories about things, but we are constantly talking to doctors or working with patients whose main role is to see patients feel better. So, therefore, they will always ask the questions that are of clinical significance, whereas we ask questions that are of imaginary scientific significance, and it may not necessarily have that much practical value. So, the ecosystem here, Srija, is what excites me the most. That allows a new student coming in to uh, be a bull in a china shop. Okay. And just go for it.
Yes.
So that's, I don't know. I
Right.
gave you a very long winded answer.
No, but you covered pretty much all the topics. Just to add to that, like we can, as an associate professor here as well, I should add, like immunology is also like very well explored here, because with my experience, it's not that well
Absolutely.
explored in the country.
Yeah.
And I must add that we are also developing novel immunotherapeutics. And so, just to summarize what Sir just said, like you have students basically have all the foundations required for not only getting the basic theory covered, but also like the some foundations to start to think independently and build their own either development profiles, like how to develop a drug from start to finish, or how to develop a diagnostic from start to finish. And as Sir also said, that AI has a huge power to try to add or bolster that, to try and have iterative patterns to add to therapeutics or even clinical diagnostics, etc. And as you also rightly said, that we have regulatory science information to students, so that they can choose from a whole set of areas. That leads very beautifully to the next question, sir. What sort of careers do they envision having right after this? Like, can we,
Yeah.
first part is, what are they able to continue that, or choose another track for PhD? Or second, as you talked about products, so can they look into careers of product development, and what sort of support do they have there?
Uh, Before I answer that, I just want to completely acknowledge your point about immunology. Definitely, that's something I certainly should have mentioned. But it's it's one of the most important areas in modern biology and medicine, because if you really think about it, if we didn't have an immune system, we'd be dead in days, maybe hours. You are more of an expert than I am. And how to strengthen, fortify, and sustain the immune system, complement the immune system, is a huge amount of research. It goes back thousands of years ago, when in Ayurveda, where they looked at how the body fights off diseases. Okay, so we have lost a lot of that, and we are in an age of immunotherapy, and hopefully, in future, we will use some of the wealth of information that was there in terms of the constitution of the people. They talk in Ayurveda about Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and how that tunes the immune system in different ways, and so on. But the immunotherapy, as you rightly said, is a very important part of what is happening here in ARCD. Now, coming to your question about what are the opportunities for students. Now, I would say that if you're coming for the MSc program, there are really kind of two options. One is to take up a much more of an academic research intensive focus. The other is I'm really a pragmatist and I want to go to the industry, and I want to develop products and make an immediate impact in a matter of a year or two, and get trained in industrial techniques and technologies and commercialization and management and so on. So those who are looking for the industry path has a huge opportunity. There are literally hundreds of startups in India that are looking for candidates of this sort, not to speak of more established biotech companies, pharma companies, and so on, and even AI based companies, which are starting to proliferate in India. So, looking at the industrial market, there's a huge opportunity. We have placement cell that helps students connect with these. If your interest is, if you're an explorer, like we had explorers who explored the oceans in the 1400s, if you're an explorer, well, this is also a fantastic place to be. You can finish your master's, you can do your PhD, you can go abroad, and you can get specialized training in various areas, um, and hopefully come back to India and help us out more. So, as you have done, Srija. Okay.
I
Um,
recommend that.
yeah. So, the research oriented pathway is also very exciting. There is huge amount of investment in research by the government of India in various institutions, including Amrita, IITs, ICERs, and all of that. And so there's a huge demand for experienced scientists. There really is a huge demand. And I think that if you're good, if you're publishing, and what I would say to students who join, especially those who go to PhDs, they have to publish. They have to think about doing research that will lead to some specific output and contribution. That's what publication means. So those areas of research are also phenomenal opportunities. Um, and they should explore all of that. I think I've covered
Yeah.
some of the.
So, sir, since you mentioned, international, approaches. So, does Amrita itself has some connections with international universities, or
Yes,
how?
I
Yeah.
would like to talk about. Thank you for bringing that up. See, Amrita has a very global vision. We already have collaborations internationally in Korea, Japan, Europe, USA, but those are collaborative projects.
Mm,
But we are also setting up some international hubs.
mm,
One is at Stanford.
mhm,
We have a Stanford Amrita, um, you know, a research institute that is in the works. Um, and we are also starting a research center in Chicago, USA. What is the purpose of starting something abroad when we are sitting here in India? The purpose is that it gives students an easy opportunity to go to one of our centers, get training abroad, do some cutting edge work, uh, explore the thought process that is there in the West, which I must admit, from a research standpoint, they are clearly more advanced in the thought process as a country, and students would benefit. And they can interact with others in the US or Europe and be able to uh, gain a lot. For example, students can go and have an internship for a few months at Chicago, or a PhD. A student can do that, or a postdoc can go and spend some time there and come back. So when these centers, which will be part of the UGC approved centers abroad, come up, it'll give Amrita a real global presence. And we are working towards integrating our key critical centers of excellence in India, which includes the ARCD and this hospital, to these international centers, so that students who join here would automatically have that kind of global perspective. We also have for MSc students a collaboration with the University of Arizona, which is a dual degree program. We expect that we can, if students are interested, they could get 2 degrees in the same time frame that they are here. One from Arizona, one from Amrita,
Mm.
um, which is not an online degree; it's actual U.S. degree.
Right.
So it gives them sort of like a passport to applying for jobs elsewhere. So Amrita has also a huge international programs office, and those who are interested in collaborations and joint work are always encouraged. So this is the way that Amrita is moving, and we hope to get more global, because that's what is happening today everywhere.
So on those lines, sir, is there any financial aid available to students, and at what level? Maybe at the MSc level or at PhD level?
At the MSc level and PhD level. At the MSc level, we'll give students, deserving students, a credit in the tuition, so that they will be able to, for those for whom there is a difficulty, um, or for those who have sufficient merit. Um, Although initially we have, while starting, we had offered some level of credit to almost all the students. Eventually, what we hope to do is those students who are good, who are deserving, who have good grades, should get the motivation to get some kind of a scholarship, and we are offering that. At the PhD level, we do more than that. We give a significant stipend, monthly stipend, plus we provide, through internal grants, we provide support for consumables and actual research costs. Of course, it's contingent on the student performing well, publishing, and so on, because we are not a funding agency. We are not a research funding agency. So, but the opportunity is there. A student can work on a project that's entirely Amrita funded for their PhD, rather than having to wait for the government grants to come through and things like that.
Mm.
So that is a powerful message to students. Look, we are paying for you to do PhD, which means we want you to do PhD. We want you to become a scientist. Okay, and you're not going to incur any cost. I mean, how can you say no to that if you like research, right? So, so that those sorts of things that we are doing now. In particular, I want to say something about our Chancellor Amma. Our the Chancellor of the University, Sri Mata Amritandamayi Devi, and it is her vision and foresight that has set up this campus. And she is a humanitarian leader that is well respected all over the world. And her vision has always been that education is not for a living, it is for life. That is, that education must transform you personally and it must contribute to the world positively, especially to those that are more in need. This vision has been the driving force of the whole university system and particularly also of this campus. In our 2,700 bed hospital, for instance, we provide very subsidized care and free care also to many deserving patients. Our AIC, this ARCD investment for the entire infrastructure running to hundreds of crores is all from her beneficent vision that research is required if you have to really serve the people. This is a concept in charity that is not so common. Charity is about getting a donation and giving it to some poor people. But the concept of charity in research, what we are calling it is called compassionate research. Compassionate research means research that has a compassionate goal in mind. And it is this driving force that has, uh, you know, uh, made or enabled or motivated Amma, as we call her, simply meaning mother, the chancellor, to focus heavily on research as a way to serve the people. And so we always say, I always say to the students, why are you doing this? What is the purpose of it? It's not for you just to get a degree, although that will happen. But what are you going to accomplish in the world with it? Who is going to get benefited? So these are questions that come up because we are talking about compassionate research. So where is the compassion? What is the compassion component? So that is something I do want to say before we end because it's very important. It is that kind of vision that has motivated us, driven us to work hard and accomplish something for the world that is beneficial, while at the same time focusing on very high quality research.
So before I end, I have two last questions for you. First one is, since we are talking about larger perspectives, so what do you think? How does Amrita's vision fit in with some of the government initiatives like Ayushman Bharat or Digital India, Make in India, especially? So can you comment on that?
Yeah, government's initiative falls squarely in line with what Amma is thinking or our university is thinking because Ayushman Bharat main focus is affordability, accessibility of healthcare. Okay, how do you provide cost-effective insurance, cost-effective care is the word, the magic word is cost-effective, that the masses should have access to not only healthcare but battery technologies and other technologies and so on. So uh, this is exactly the same goal that our university has, which is to provide provide access to the common people to technologies and all. So we it's very important. The other part that make in India part, that's also a very important area because we also believe that unless and until we can make things indigenously, we really are not really growing to the level of international competition. If we have to import and then modify it to use it, it's not as good as making it ourselves, right? So, for example, we hope to start a big program on developing cell therapy, which requires us to manufacture vectors that can modify cells. So, manufacturing in house, the focus on manufacturing is emphasized by the fact that we have a GMP
Yeah.
in-house, which I didn't mention earlier, which is a good manufacturing practice clean room facility, which is a manufacturing facility.
Mm.
By manufacturing, I don't mean commercially. Manufacturing can be a big research initiative. So our GMP facility is 15,000 square feet, which is a massive facility. It meets the Make in India requirements
Mm.
fantastically well, and we plan to utilize it to the fullest, bring in companies and industries to manufacture things in-house for healthcare purposes. And what was the third one?
And if I may add to this also, there is GLP, which is good laboratory
Yeah.
practices, and our animal facility. I can speak
Yes.
to that because I'm
Yeah.
in charge of the animal facility, and some part of it is also going to be that to cater to more in vivo work, meaning animal-based research or animal modeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last question was, sir, can you give us or can you give the students some final message as to maybe they're already excited, like listening to all that we have to offer. But how do they start? Like give us or give them a little bit of a message, like where do they start?
Well, I would say, you know, join ARCD.
Well, moving the
But they can apply, of course, to a lot of other places. But I think the starting point for them is to ask themselves, what do they want to do? What do they want to accomplish? And chase their dreams and understand that the new world is interdisciplinary. You have to work with teams, you have to work with people, you have to bring about unity and partnerships and collaborations and so on. Um, and look for a place that has that. I think, the new universities are collaborative centers or hubs
Mm,
where industries, different disciplines are all coming together and working, including international teams. So that's very important. Uh, I would also say, please integrate academics with research. Research is not some ivory tower work that people sometimes think that people do, which has nothing to do with the real world. Research is something that makes science applicable to the world. Okay. So they should consider research. They should not think only in terms of taking some courses and getting
yeah.
a degree. And be interested and keen to get into the lab and think, "Oh, what can I do that'll make a difference?" And this is a very important part of planning for your career. Um, and I think the general Amma's message, education for life rather than education for a living, which is just to make money,
Yeah.
is not a good way to start.
Hmm.
If you want to start well, think about education for a living and research as a way of life and as a way of contributing to society rather than something ivory tower.
Hmm.
If you have these concepts clear in your mind, whether you're doing biology or engineering or mathematics, I think you will be successful. So the new students, I don't know whether they're Gen Z or ZZ now, I don't know what
I
they are.
can't even keep
I
track of
can keep
that.
track. But are are very um, excited for sure, but they also have high ambitions about the world and what the world can offer them. They should not forget that service to others is the underlying foundation of any contribution. We are not going to school, we are not going to college or research institute to serve ourselves. If that is done, your contribution to the world will be less. So if you keep in mind that you are increasing your skill sets and capacity for service, that is the first and most important stuff. Please understand that service to society through science, through research is critical. And that would be my advice to the students, to the young people today who often gets caught up in what they need rather than what they can do for others.
Yeah, needs and wants, sir. Thank you so much, sir. That was hopefully a very inspiring conversation, and also sir's philosophical insight to that. So with that, we'll end today's second episode of BioCharcha. But if you're curious and want to learn more, please visit our ARCD webpage. You will see the details of it in this video. You can definitely comment us and comment on this video. Send us your questions, and be curious to learn more. And yeah, that's a wrap from us. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Srija.
Thank you, sir.